right, can we get started? So I know most everybody here. My name is John Broderick, and I'm a representative from the Winnie County Area Community Foundation, in addition to the Parks Board for the Village of Winnie County. So thank you for taking the time to come tonight. Just so this is all level set with everybody, the village did not, as a Parks Committee, we kind of were looking at, we need to do a lot of improvements at Marble Park. However, we don't have a plan. So contacted our county supervisor, Doug Nelson, and he was able to help us with the county use some of their ARPA funds. So we got money from the county to pay for Rutler, our consultant, on this project. And as most of you know, there was a survey that was put out. We got 818 responses, which is really good for an area our size. So the number one thing that people wanted was a new playground. 56% of the people. 40% of the people wanted a splash pad. 38% wanted an aquatic feature. 34% said a new bathroom facility. Then it drops down to 20% wanted an inclusive playground. 20% wanted a trail improvement. And then parks maintenance was also 20%. And sports field enhancements was 18%. There's another, 5 or 6 more categories, but I kind of cut it off at about 20%. So from there, what we did is we created a subcommittee, right? So we had people from the WYDC for baseball. We had somebody from the PTA to help us with the playground equipment. We had people from Soccer State Committee, someone that was understanding of the adaptive playground equipment. Our Parks Director, somebody interested in archery. The Historical Society was here, as well as the Parks Committee ourselves. So in addition to that, I also met with the school administration and the athletic director to make sure that we're trying to optimize our resources so that the parks doesn't all have this and we're being redundant with what the high school plans are. So we tried to do all this. As of yesterday, Rutler probably went through, 15 or 20 different iterations, and we've narrowed it down to 2. One has a pool, and the other does not have the pool. So John, the president of Rutler, is going to kind of walk through this a little bit, give a little bit of background information, and then kind of go through the features of each concept, the pros and cons, and then we'll ask you guys for your input. Thanks.
All right, thank you, John, for the introduction. And what we'll do tonight, John laid that out very well, is go through a little bit of the project history and get people up to speed with the process of our design, site analysis through, look a little bit at the site, and then go through the 2 concepts that we have here. Once we open it up, we'll take questions. We'll have you come up to the microphone, ask questions. Please ask questions if you have them. Comment what you'd like to see, if there's something not there, if you like something from 1 and 2 that could be combined. We're open to all those comments. So, and then what we'll do is take those back to the committee, make some considerations for moving that forward to a preferred concept plan, start looking at cost estimates in detail, phasing opportunities, we'll start looking at all of that, and then implementation strategy from there. So your input tonight is also very, very important. The survey was great. Those results, I believe, were more than the amount of people who took the City of Oshkosh Corp survey. So that says a lot. It's a very, very high percentage of your population that was interested in this, which is very good news. So to get started, location here, just on Main and 6 on the southwest corner, on the west side of the village, here at Marble Park. I'm sure you're all very familiar with where this is. And within the park, there's a lot of natural features that we want to keep in consideration as we're planning. This map shows the surface water data, which includes waterways in blue, and this is all DNR information, and then the orange and the purple that you see up there, those are wetlands in orange, and wetland indicator soils in purple. So we only have these two, I'm going to pull up my pointer here real quick. It's these two areas here and here that are indicator soils. So to do any development moving forward, we need to get a wetland delineation done, but it's all very open for development or redevelopment in this case. And then the waterways in blue, that's something that permitting process would have to take place to alter those. Floodplain, very important here. There's significant floodplain on the property, flood fringe, and then Zone A floodplain here. There is no floodway, which we would see on the main water body where there's current and floodway. That's very difficult to alter. Here we have floodplain, and that is jurisdictional with the village and discussions with the Army Corps. What we want to focus on with this map, though, is the development opportunity, redevelopment opportunity, the high ground, if you will, throughout the park. So keep that in mind as we're looking at concepts as well. And then our site analysis, looking at the high points throughout the site. We have this nice spine, this ridge running through from the center of the site, northeast, to the corner of the Historical Society. We have the low area, of course, is the pool, existing pool and beach. That is our lowest point on the site. Drainage generally goes to where these two green arrows are going to the waterway. Connection and circulation throughout. We do have the pedestrian bridge coming in from the southwest, connecting to a trail system throughout. Vehicular traffic comes in off the Cleveland entrance into the middle of the park, where the main parking lot and drives are, and then those kind of splinter off into the park. Something that we want to look at as a design opportunity to relocate and get cohesiveness within the park. So that's our site analysis. And then moving on to the features, existing features. I won't go through each one of them, but we have the ball fields here, the existing buildings, open shelter, bathhouse, the beach and pool, and we have existing basketball, the Historical Society, and then play features here throughout the park. And then there is pickleball there as well, but the aerial photo doesn't have that on there yet, but that is at the north portion of the site. Some of the design precedents we looked at from a playground and splash pad standpoint. This is Wapaka Swan Park that was just recently completed last summer. This has accessible features in it, zero entry platforms that go all the way up to interactive features, an ADA compliant slide, some ADA compliant features. Almost all of the splash pad features are also ADA compliant, and then a restroom building that serves that splash pad for changing and for restroom use. From an athletic standpoint, we wanted to look at some precedent of what opportunities there are by consolidating fields and having common backstops, having common restrooms, concession that serve all the fields, accessibility coming into a facility rather than all over the park. This consolidates spectators, this consolidates services, and allows for a much better drainage pattern where we want it high and dry, everything is there and then can drain away. So this also can help out, this configuration can help out greatly with drainage as well, which we need. So then into the concept plans. I'd like to start with concept one, just to go back, refresh your memory on what we have. Parking, existing ball fields, the pond and the pool and the beach. Here we're consolidating parking to the east side off of Cleveland. We have a large parking facility here right off of Cleveland that would serve the park. The existing covered shelter, open shelter here, refurbished right off of that. Immediately from there, we have the playground and splash pad facility just to the east of the current bathhouse, where that would be redeveloped as well, refurbished in this concept. Expanded pickleball and basketball court, so expanding to the east off that existing pickleball court and adding more court space. The batting cages here for baseball, redevelopment of the current large field, and then a quad of smaller 200-foot fields here where in this concept the pool is removed. We'd regrade for additional fields. Here have a common concessions restroom area, seating, dugouts for those fields, and then a multi-sport open field. Continuation of the existing perimeter path for walking and biking and other just park enjoyment. Maintaining the connection to the south end of the property here, and then improving the parking and pathway connections that we do have, making the path go to the north of the parking lot so we have a more formalized parking area there, the path around that connecting in so that pedestrian and bike traffic doesn't have to go past the parked cars to get in. Improvement to the dog park area here, just east of that, potentially having a small dog fenced in area as well, just to give a little more diversity and use to that, to get more dog park users into the area, and accessible right off the parking lot. So that is our concept 1. Concept 2, the idea here is to have some parking right off of Cleveland, and the other large feature that we're modifying is a smaller, more effective swimming pool area, introduction of inflatables, more manageable area, some beach area, a new splash pad, accessible playground, a bathhouse concession area here, a large open shelter, and then to the east of that we have our court spaces. We have expanded pickleball, basketball court, and then a reconfigured quad of baseball use. So a 250 field, 3 200 fields. There's 4 baseball fields on this concept. Our consolidated concessions restroom plaza building there. This is that high point, that ridge that really would help promote drainage as well. So from a placement standpoint, this quad is placed to take advantage of that high area, and then these facilities as well, just outside of that floodway, or floodplain, I should say. Parking here, and then another alternative for looking at bringing parking in to serve the pool area and the splash pad area. If there's park users coming in just for that, potentially having a secondary access there. Connections, again, to the perimeter walkway, our bridge, and then those same improvements here on the south. Improved parking, modified trail, our dog park improvements, small dog area, and our open space for archery here as well. I didn't mention that on 1, but this would be an opportunity for our archery improvement here on the west side of this open space where it is. So that is our concept 2. Anything else, John, from your standpoint on the concepts, high points that we want to touch on? Otherwise, we can.
I think I rattled off the top 8 reasons, or that things, utilities or what have you that people wanted. The 9th one was safety. And so both of these concepts are trying to move the parking lot to the perimeter, rather than having it in the center where the kids have to run across the parking lot to access all the different features of the park.
Exactly, and that's really important to reiterate, John. As we look at, again, existing conditions, we have a tremendous amount of park use here. We've got a lot of team sports, we've got a lot of day use, bike use, path use, just general enjoyment. And right now, one of the first things that I saw as an opportunity for improvement in this park is to take the vehicular traffic and offer accessibility, but put it on the periphery, as far on the periphery as we can, still having it be functional to access the park, and get people to the facilities that they want to get to, but not having it be right in the middle, so we have these crossing opportunities for foot traffic, for bike traffic. Eliminating that is usually one of my biggest goals. I know we've referred to Plowman Park a few times. That improvement for vehicular circulation and interaction with pedestrian and bike traffic, creating a bike path before everyone's driving or riding the bikes where cars were driving, they're jogging on the roadways. Bringing cars into a parking lot and then exiting rather than having that racetrack. The old parkway, that used to be a feature, is to have a park drive. Now with the amount of pedestrian traffic, the amount of bike traffic, it's very important to create safety by separating that from vehicular traffic. And then two, it's also very efficient. Roadways and maintenance and just having spur drives and things like that to maintain, consolidating all that in the long term is going to be a much more maintainable facility as well. And you can see that in some of these park examples. We have the parking on the periphery right off the main roadways, and then bringing people into the park, opening it up to pedestrian and bike traffic within the park, getting those trails, foot traffic and bike traffic only. Same here at Wapaka, bringing folks in off the main drive and into the splash pad and the playground facility, into and at the periphery of the baseball facility at Swan Park. So always a goal and objective, and certainly an opportunity to improve safety within the parks. So again, in one we do have the swimming area, the current pool redeveloped. We have 5 total ball fields here and a multi-sport that's a full-size soccer field, so that could accommodate many youth fields or full-size competition, football, flag football, lacrosse, any field sport. Here we have the 4 fields and then the 1 multi-sport field. One thing to keep in consideration too is, these are potential development opportunities. We've talked about phasing. These can get phased in. If there is not a large need for this to occur, that can be a lower phase item, or I should say higher number phase. But imagine it as park green space as well. It's just preserving green space within your park for just general enjoyment or informal ball sports. And kids can pick up a football game or kick a soccer ball around in these areas or hit a softball. Those areas are preserved green space as well, so keep that in mind. They don't have to be a developed multi-sport soccer field right away. That's something that could phase in. So any other comments, John? Otherwise, I'd like to open up for a comment from the public if there is any. So we'll do that. If you could, there's a mic in the back, there's a mic up here, so we can get the comments, because I don't have the ability to write everything down that fast. So if you could, please.
What would be the depth of the pool area?
So that's something we need to talk about, because we are going to look at inflatables. I don't have great data on what the current depth is. Is it 12 feet? So rule of thumb is 8 or deeper for water quality. That's what we're really going to want to focus on, is water quality with any of the pool improvements. If, for instance, in concept 2, making the best use of that, having a a gentle entry into and then drop off to the activity area. We would definitely want to look at that, but maintaining a depth for water quality and safety would be the goal and objective there. Anybody else? Any preferences or comments on either of the concepts? There's one.
Since this is just in the planning stage, could you increase the size of parking over by the dog park? You can only get 3 cars in there right now, and it's used for fishing, archery, dog park. You can't squeeze 4?
Yeah, we have 12 there in this concept.
Oh.
So, yeah, we did make that much more efficient. That was one of the things we looked at in that area is 3 cars can kind of fit in there. And yep, and then the walking path is there, so backing your car out of that area, safety concerns. So we made that block of parking independent, and then we took the path around it so that we removed that interaction and crossing. And it was a great opportunity to increase parking to about 12 spaces is what we have there. Thank you.
In Plan 1, is there demand to warrant 5 ball diamonds?
Yeah, and that's a question, I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves as a community, is that needed here? I've seen some comments, yes, some comments, no. 4 is enough, you have 4 now. So increasing, is there a need to increase? That's kind of one of those open questions that I actually have. I don't see a need here to increase, but we want to show an opportunity where that is a possibility. So I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any of the data telling me that in our survey. So I guess I'd ask for that input as we do move through that.
What I have learned over the last,
Yeah.
so what I have learned over the last couple of months is that one of the reasons I wanted to talk to the school is the fact that they have 2 baseball diamonds at the school. Now, the one on the far north end, I guess they call it Little Lake Winnicott because they have lots of drainage issues there and it's too low. So today, this part right here, that ball diamond is, to my knowledge, exclusively for 13 and 14-year-old boys only. So when you're kind of looking at this, and maybe it's 10% of the park designated for 30 kids tops, it seems like a lot. Just trying to be objective. And I played baseball on that diamond, so I have nothing against baseball. But, as we're trying to look at this objectively, are there some other things? And I think we can still have baseball over in that other number 10 that's over there and still support that, but we probably make that more of a flexible field that you could use the longer fence for both softball and hardball. You'd have to bring in a temporary mound or a portable mound in order to make that work for baseball.
Anything else to follow up?
A different question.
Sure, yeah, go ahead, Lynn. Yep, go ahead.
From a maintenance standpoint, one of the big differences between the two is the pool area.
Right.
What is the cost to maintain that pool annually?
And then I can follow up too on the improvements after you speak to that right now.
Great question. I don't have all the numbers memorized, but I can tell you that year-to-date through, I believe last week, I got an update, and we are in the black about $3,800. So as we took all the park expenses, a lot of those were rolled up into the pool that had nothing to do with the pool. If we eliminated the pool, we'd still have to mow lawn and things of that nature. So the pool in and of itself is at very least a break even or slightly profitable. Okay?
What would that be compared to the diamond? Would the diamond have any income at all? Was it the other one?
there is some cost sharing with the WYDC, but not to the extent of the pool.
Yeah, the reason I ask is, when I look at it, it's like one extra baseball diamond, which is great for having kids playing baseball. And besides that location, it was the 1992 chance, you know? So you don't want to get rid of that, you know, in a way. But to have the fifth diamond at the expense of a pool, you know, it's kind of hard to justify that, in my opinion, with the weather getting kind of warmer and people needing to cool off, you know.
Sure.
It's something you think, but
Yeah.
rather, go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think the real important thing, and John mentioned that, we looked at utilization, and you know, we came up with some pretty interesting numbers, really. And it's not that, you know, I played Little League too in another city, had great memories, but 30 kids, and all same age group and same gender, and we gotta look at a way to make the parks more inclusive for everybody.
If you wanted to have all 5 diamonds there and a pool, you just buy my house.
Well, here goes.
Okay, so that was just added in there. But the other question I had was about the osprey nest that's there on the diamond that is located, I believe it's the most southerly diamond. And I was wondering if, you know, me and my wife kind of like to watch them out of the living room window, you know, we had telescopes set up and stuff like that, you know. But, you know, we go on rather fond of them. And we're wondering if there'd be a way to be able to maybe do part of that during the winter and kind of like put the nest back up on something real close by or something?
Yeah, and we've got experience with that. And that's always great concerns too, the natural value that Parks and Recreation has. This park here, JC Park in Oregon, there was actually an owl nest here, a great horned owl nest, and we did some modification of the plan actually to save one more pine tree just for cover for the nest, because if the nest didn't have cover. So we do look at those things. A lot of the developments in the city of Oshkosh have osprey nests. If that is a concern, construction staging, you know, after the breeding season and fledging, that's when the old pole can come down, nest, the new lights go up, and then next spring there's an osprey nest again. So we've worked very closely with staging and making sure that natural components are considered in the park development as well.
How many people knew that there was an osprey nest there? Wow.
Pretty popular.
That's great. I didn't know.
Is it down right here? Down in the southern end?
Yeah.
It's low. Yes, it is on the southern side, it's down the first baseline,
Yeah.
maybe a little beyond the first base.
Because I know you can't see it from back there, because I can barely see it, but here's the outline of the diamond right here. So it's probably right here. So in this design concept, it's green space. It's not in that.
Well, I guess I kind of like the 5 diamond. I mean, the 4 diamond.
Yeah, that's it.
That's one of the, okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
I do have a few questions, and one actually in reference to the osprey. Could a nesting platform be put up, please, rather than attracting them back to the lights?
The lights.
Because what happens in some areas is when they're nesting on the lights, it can create extra heat and it can actually catch on fire. I've actually seen a picture where an osprey nest was destroyed because it caught on fire.
Mhm.
And there are multiple areas, like there is an osprey nest
Yeah.
right over here. And
Mhm.
so there are nesting platforms that can be placed. So
Yep,
that's
that
something.
would be preferred actually, is to find some of the screen space that there's plenty of. Put in a pole, put in a platform, to have them, you know, fledge again and then come back and find that platform rather than athletic field lighting. They really like athletic field lighting, I don't know why, but even when there's platforms, but to give them that opportunity, absolutely a great idea to include some of that encouragement for the nesting habitat rather than the athletic field lighting.
And maybe even putting discouragement on top of lights
Mm.
so that they know they need to go to the nesting
Right.
platform.
Right.
They
Right.
do that already.
Yeah.
But when they're persistent, they'll do it, because they have tines, even the ones that are on, their tines are like maybe this tall, and they'll use that to put sticks in between and help part of the weave and hold it.
Right. Yes, anything else? I'm sorry.
Actually, some of the other things that I'm interested in are not necessarily all of the stuff,
Mhm.
but being able to have some of the natural environment. Like you talk about where the wetlands are and having to do wetland delineation. Are there
Mhm.
ways that it can be incorporated? Because I know there were some plantings that were done along the waterway before. And
Mhm.
do more plantings of native plantings, because those are actually better for, obviously, the water quality too. And
Right.
being able to increase that. And using the second one is better, because if you're using the first concept, you're getting rid of that pool, and that's where you said that's one of the low water areas. And if you're
Mhm.
putting a diamond in there, that could create other water issues within the park itself.
Mhm.
And wanting to try to eliminate that would be something that I'd be interested in
Right.
addressing.
Yeah, exactly. And this, when we talk about the pathways and all that, we're bringing citizens by all these beautiful natural features as well, the plantings, outdoor education, environmental education, all those opportunities. If there's interest from the community, I think along the trail, you could have some interpretive signage, certainly opportunities for that. One thing we do have in these plans is we have elbow room a little bit. It's not full, it's not crammed, it's not cramped. And keeping those peripheries open for enjoyment, that's really the idea with maintaining that pathway, offering a little bit of buffer, is to allow for the encouragement of a natural transition to here we have that waterway. That's really, the end point of the land where we can have that buffer. So I think those opportunities are truly there, and good to hear that, so we can keep that in consideration as we look to pull that master plan together.
Especially walking the trails, it's nice to be able to see all of the natural things that are supposed to be there. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I understand the concept of the ball diamonds all being together like that. My concern, my wife and I, we spend way more hours at ballparks than I care to admit. But when we're at a park like that, you don't only have to dodge the foul balls from one diamond, you're dodging them from 3, basically, because they're coming at you from all different ways. I know you want to keep them together. It's just something you got to consider, because we see people get clunked in the head all the time, and I laugh. My wife doesn't think it's funny, but it's like, did you see them? They got clunked in the bean, I know the concept is there, and it's good. We've been at Wapaka a few times. We've seen that, but if you've been to a ball diamond and watched a game with all the foul balls, you're not watching the 2 diamonds beside you. You're watching your game, and all of a sudden they holler heads up. Right. And where do you look? So I don't know. Is there a way you can kind of?
Yeah, and one thing to consider here too is getting away from that quad. The foul balls are going to go somewhere else. They're going to. So is it the street? Is it the yard across the street? Is it the parking lot? So it's just something to be aware of. If we know they're going to generally be in that location, yes, there's the awareness that you need to have when you're in a quad like that there could be foul balls from field 2 or 3 or 4. But netting is an option. That's something that we've implemented. Just simple overhead netting over the top of the grandstand. So when you're sitting in your grandstand, you know you have a net and a building behind you. An appropriate backstop. That stops most of the foul ball problems that you have if you have a short back. Some of those facilities, I think where you see a lot of those foul balls, you probably have a 20-foot, 22-foot backstop rather than a 30-foot backstop. And that extra height is going to solve many of those fall ball problems that you have in a quad. And then that additional netting, that little bit of overhead, that can go miles too, so.
It's just something to consider, so the spectators, when they're sitting there, that the netting, that's a good idea.
Yep.
I don't recall, I don't think Wapaka had that over there.
They've been adding some, it's in their
Oh,
master
okay.
plan too, to raise funds
Okay.
for that. There's cost to it, but they're starting to do combination shade structures and foul ball protection. So you can catch a little shade and have a little bit of overhead protection too. And then if you don't want that, there's a bleacher set on the other side where you can have your, just spectator beware
Sure.
area and catch some sun. So
Sure. And the splash pad at Wapaka is really a nice deal. They got one in Watoma too,
Mhm.
that's got a nice splash pad, and
Yeah.
they're always very heavily used, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, this concept too, where we're preserving the pool space and integrating a splash pad as well, you have more options for that aquatic feature that folks are looking for. And you don't have to be, a certain age, a swimming ability. You can bring your really little ones out to that splash pad and enjoy it as well. That's the other thing, is reaching a much larger age group, from very little children up to the teenagers who really like to sit on the beach and catch sun and maybe swim, but just be out there and enjoy the summer. So yeah, that splash pad really is something that we see as an affordable option for communities, as an option for getting people out and into the water without being actually in the water. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I was just talking with Peggy here, and she helped remind me of the playground equipment. Are we looking at adaptive there too for people coming into the community, continuing to do that?
Yeah, and in fact, here, the example of Wapaka, again, this was a big emphasis on adaptive and inclusive, soft surface playground, poured in place, features that, again, are accessible, zero grade or elevated ramp grade to something, not just a ramp up onto the platform and then back down. It goes to an interactive game. It goes to a elevated swing that can be rolled onto. It goes to a slide, if able, that is accommodating for inclusive play. So yeah, those elements can get integrated very easily into a play space, and to have the proper surfacing, starting from the approved wood fiber. There's the one approved wood fiber up to a poured in place or a combination thereof. There's a lot you can do to easily incorporate those items into your play spaces.
Well, I have forgotten your name. I've not forgotten your daughter.
Yep.
And the needs that she has, nor has the committee. So that was really an impactful presentation you made, and please continue to keep showing up and remind us. That's
Just
an
told
important.
Peggy too, my nephews last week loved the merry-go-round. And it's still a great thing. 5, 6 years old, they jumped on that thing and they're ready to go. So that's one old thing that could still stick.
Sounds good.
My daughter loves that.
Yeah. And that's one of the most requested features now, is that at-grade playground, merry-go-round. That's why they were removed for years and years, is just kids were falling off. And now that with the at-grade systems, it's one of the most popular features here at Swan Park. We have the roll-on, roll-off at-grade merry-go-round, and it's always has kids on it. So of all ability levels, and there's a lot of interaction there. So it is one of those features that really brings everybody together.
Would the playground only be by the splash pad?
Let me go to that here. For these concepts, oops, get my mouse to cooperate here. All right, there we go. So for 1 and 2, we both have them in close proximity to each other because kids really like to go back and forth. Parents like to have their kids go back and forth because they'll get bored of the splash pad and say, I want to go play on the playground, and then pack up and move to the other part of the park. How close those are, there's a lot of elbow room on this plan. I think when we get into refinement and getting into more of setting that footprint for the master plan, we'll take that into consideration how close we do put those. And then from the master plan forward, there's the whole engineering process and really getting things placed exactly where they're going to go. But we see that interaction working really well, where the playground and the splash pad are together. Kids can just flow back and forth between the elements. Question?
Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
couple questions on the other picture,
Yep.
because I can't see that well.
That's right.
Are we eliminating the small shelter, or is it up there? I can't see if it's up there.
Is that here or
Used to
the
be
one by the
bridge.
baseball?
So that's gonna stay, do we still have 2 shelters, a large and a small?
Yes.
What, the small one has bathrooms, the large one, are you putting bathrooms, or do they have to use a beach house?
My pointer back up here. So we have the bathroom building here. This is the refurbished bathroom, the small shelter. We have a new concessions restroom here serving athletics and spectators here. We also have the possibility of a restroom at the open shelter location here as well on this picture. So we have 3 opportunities for restrooms here.
Is the open shelter the new bathhouse?
Well, the addition here, the open shelter is 14, this large rectangle. 13 here would be a concessions restroom. When I say concessions restroom, in theory, restrooms for sure. If you do concessions out of there, that would be determined on your building architectural programming, if that really needs to be there, if that space is right here. Or if it's a prep kitchen and restrooms up here for a rental in an open shelter. That would be something that we dig into in the details of programming.
So for the pool and the splash pad, is there gonna be a charge, or is that all free?
I can't answer that.
Because that's our income now, well,
Yeah.
we're in the red this year, but I didn't know, because normally you don't charge for a splash pad. So I didn't know if we need like barrels and all that kind of stuff, do we, John?
Yeah.
So we had Rachel, our Parks Director, on the subcommittee, and it was her feeling that we should put the splash pad inside the fence of the park, because parents would have some kids in the inflatables and potentially some kids in the splash pad, and didn't want the parents to have to look in between the two, so we wanted to keep them together. She was also concerned about potentially the revenue impact it would have to her, that kids would just stay in the splash pad. So right now the design is with the splash pad inside the fence.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to know is the parking we have now, what is that compared to these 2 parking lots?
I did have a count. Let me see. I'm going to just exit out of this really quickly so I can see it better. I think we have a count on the before. And we don't. It's very close to what we have in the main lot, and I'll see what that is. Here, this main lot is very close. 150-ish spots, and that's about what we have now. I don't have a full count. I do have it. I don't have it with me tonight, but I know we're increasing parking so that we're being more efficient and being more accommodating with parking.
Drawings had 61 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know what we had now.
Yeah, the current, yep, and I don't have that number handy, apologize, but I can get that. But I do know we have a net increase in parking here to accommodate more efficient use of parking.
Where would you come in?
Here, right off Cleveland. Whoops, I don't have my pointer on here. Let me get back to my... Where it is today, exactly. Yep. So right here we have that connection, right at the intersection, Cleveland. And then again, rather than coming through the park, you can see the shadow of the former parking lot here. I'll put my pointer back on. You can see that shadow of the former parking lot in this concept here. What we're doing is consolidating that, moving that over, opening up the park to pedestrian access. And same with this here. Yep, same here. Cleveland entrance. Yep, plan 2, I just flipped to here, and this has that same entry drive. I would adjust this a little bit. I'd pull that parking into the park a little bit more, just to get off the walking path a little bit. Small adjustment we can make, but yes, that would be the same entranceway circulation throughout, and then exit. So we have that one point of ingress and egress for that parking. Can you do the microphone, please? Thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to have things in front of me, so that's
Yeah, right.
With the parking, I watched the video first meeting, and a lot of people wanted the parking, the flow better, but also increase.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to understand from what you were saying. Are you saying your parking capacity is somewhat the same or a little bit more?
This one parking lot here, the east parking lot, is similar. The two lots together is a significant increase in parking. So we do have an increase in the number of parking from pre-development to post-development.
Right, and then a little follow-up on what I was talking about earlier. Along the channel there's egrets, ducks, geese. Sometimes, yeah. Their dog likes to eat poop. So that's no fun. But then there's a blue heron. There's blue herons there and green herons. And I think I caught them all. But yeah, I'm glad to know that you're thinking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one reason we're maintaining, we're maintaining those buffers and getting things kind of centralized, the active uses centralized, so we can have more passive use on the periphery of the park as it is now.
Well, I have a few comments and a couple questions. I was originally leaning toward this one here, the Kemper Pool. I'll have to say, my granddaughter was here from California, so I spent 2 weeks going to every park and every splash pad and water feature within 20 miles of Winneconne. I'm not thrilled with the idea of the splash pad in with the pool, behind the fence. I think that's really going to take away from the use of what that could be. And I understand Rachel's concern, but I would really not be happy with that. One of the questions I had was being that I got to see also Amros and Pollock, did we consider at all changing the pond to more of a pool feature? Or is that a possibility of what this might end up with? That's just a curious question.
And by that, do you mean like an in-ground pool feature? I think we may have discussed that, but the cost alone, that would be a huge deterrent. But yeah, John, if you can speak more to that.
So Steve Foster and myself and Rachel went to Plowman Park in Appleton. We went to Pollock Pool, and we also went to the Amro Pool, and then we looked at Fond du Lac, but said that's crazy because it's $40 a person to get into it. So no, we looked at that, and one of the things that we wanted to do is also be able to differentiate ourselves from those two areas. Because if we just, I know a lot of people go to Amro because they like the concrete deck and that type of thing. But Amro, I learned yesterday, is going for a referendum because they are $150,000 in the hole this year. And so they're going to ask for a maintenance referendum so that they can pay for the pool.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we're not going in that direction.
That's fine. I kind of figured cost was it. The other comment or question I had was about the playgrounds, because I think it's important that it is for like the top, is the plan to include both for small kids and older kids?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have is kind of this arrangement of different pods of age use
Yep.
that are all together, but the big kids can play over there and the little kids can play over there, but having a range of age uses and ability uses all together, but able to be monitored, able to play safe next to each other. But yes, we do have that considered in the plan.
Yeah, and I do kind of like I think there's something to be said about having separate parking lots. I don't know if there's any concern coming off of Main Street and maybe need a little more access, but I think that could be helpful. And not that I see it, because I live right around here and I'm in this park every day. Not that I've seen it be a problem. I know parking, goes down all of the residential streets because there's just not enough parking when it's on the weekends on the ball games. There's not enough parking in the park at all. So I think I'm sure residents would appreciate getting the parking in the park instead of all along the streets. Is there anything else? I think the soccer field is good. I really do prefer this one because I think it's important to keep the pool. I just don't want all the splash pads should not be fenced in and you have to pay for it. I think that would take away from the ability if you just want to go for because my granddaughter's a year and a half, and they don't last very long, and they have to pay like $3-5 just to go to the splash pad. I'd prefer to see something that was actually at least one of them outside. So that's
She'd get in for free at that age, but.
Yeah.
no, but grandma still has to pay.
And that is a very good point you raised, though. I want to make sure we do talk about that this is certainly a DOT, Department of Transportation discussion that would need to take place before we could say that's with certainty we could have that driveway out to Main Street with the state highway there, so.
Reflecting on when you were talking about the ball diamonds and putting in some kind of netting or screening, I like those ideas for the safety, but I also want to have you look at making sure if it's netting that it's visible to the birds, because as we know, there are a lot of birds out there, and birds a lot of times can't see that type of netting. We don't want to create any issues with them getting caught in there. And so if it's something that's visible or the screening then is tightened so they wouldn't actually go through that.
Yeah, the baseball, softball netting isn't as tight as some of the lacrosse netting and things like that. Standard netting is very visible, just like chain link fencing is very visible. It's about the same nature of material to wildlife. We haven't really seen what we've done for netting, we haven't really seen that be an issue. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, good point. Any other comments here? Otherwise, very good comments so far, I appreciate it.
Are there any current concerns with the quality of the water with the existing pool that would carry forward if a pool is retained?
I think that's something we definitely would recommend an improvement of as a water quality system. That would be part of the cost of the pool improvement, would be to certainly add to water quality monitoring and methodology and equipment to make sure that it is a better condition. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of data I have yet, but I know it's something that when we do these outdoor pool projects, that's one of the new first line of improvements that is made is the water quality. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And then John, I forgot where you said, where did the pool fit on the list of priorities from the community?
It was, no, it didn't make the top 8. So splash pad and aquatic feature of some kind was 2 and 3 on the list. So I think a lot of that number 3 is the pool, that they want an aquatic feature. The pond itself, let me see if I can find that too. Yeah, it's 10. Yep.
I was going to add to something. As far as water quality, one of the other things I learned recently from McMahon and Associates, who's our engineer for the parks and our public works, that there's a laser system now. It's a green laser that geese hate. And that's one of our biggest issues, because I know Rachel ends up spending a lot of time cleaning the beach from too many geese, as you mentioned. So that's one of the things that we'd certainly want to investigate and certainly invest in in order to make sure that the water quality stayed well, because it's nothing more annoying than having to step in that stuff when you're trying to have a nice day.
I have one other question about the trail, because I know there was some discussion when we were at the last meeting as to whether the proposal would be that the trail is paved or left like it is today.
It was 150,000.
Yeah, leveling, I think having it be, here limestone, I can say limestone, because we have plenty of it here. Limestone trail, we can show you options for what it would cost to pave it, but that is significant cost to get blacktop down, to get asphalt down.
I don't mind it not being paved, it just needs to be filled in when it washes
Yep,
away.
yeah, we do have budget, right now we're carrying budget for that to be regraded and then a better stone profile. Well, we have two concepts here. I think, should we do a quick straw poll and just see if there's any, again, concept 1, and with no pool. Concept 2, preserving the pool, 4 ball fields. Concept 1, I just want to take a quick preference. If you don't have a preference, you don't need to raise your hand.
I have a question before you.
Yeah, sure.
This concept, does this golf shelter go away?
This one, we don't, it's underneath the soccer field, but it's something we could look at. As to where it is, 1 second. So it's, yeah, it's close. Initially, yeah, I think that would be something that would go away in this concept. There is, but we do have the new development, the redevelopment here, so we do have 2 bathroom opportunities being preserved and then 1 here, so. So again, we have 1 with the quad and the large ball field, and then 2 with the pool being preserved. We'll go back to 1, and you can raise your hand. You don't have to raise your hand, it's fine. Any preference for concept 1? Okay. Any preference for concept 2 at this point?
Yay for the Osprey.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And again, that doesn't set anything in stone, I'm just curious. So, as to how they're being received. What we'll do is take this input, quantify it. We'll try to measure some of the comments to help us refine our preferred concept. We'll take that back to the subcommittee. We'll take our straw poll with a grain of salt and see what the comments really say, bring all that back to the subcommittee, and help have these comments that we obtained here tonight help us move this master plan forward. So any other questions or comments before we wrap up for the evening?
Good, I use the mic.
Yep.
One last plug.
Please.
Just think of all
Yes,
the parking you'd get if you bought my house.
Yeah, please, John. Yep.
So I've been talking to a lot of people over the last couple of months, and one comment I got is, why don't you just leave the ball diamonds alone and just fix the pool, the playground, add a couple more pickleball courts, do a new beach house, and then you don't have to do all that redevelopment. And I guess, anybody have any thoughts on that whole concept?
Too new for me at the club. I don't do that in the club.
I only want fiscal responsible
So,
Well,
so this is what it
maybe,
would look like
yeah.
here, if you want to walk through it, John.
Yeah, so here, this concept, we're talking about redevelopment of the parking, central parking lot here, ball diamond improvements, regrading, under drain, redoing the infields, looking at some preservation of fencing, backstop improvements, dugout improvements. So from a cost saving standpoint, we are looking at redevelopment here of facilities in place. Drainage improvements are needed. The youth fields, again, reconstruction of the grading, the drainage, infields, some dugout spaces, improvements to the small shelter here, repavement, I touched on that already, and then the 200-foot field, 250-foot field here, reconstruction similar to the other ball fields. So really reconstruction in place, drainage improvements, potential for irrigation there. Here we've got a small parking lot as well being added on the north side off Main. The whole DOT discussion we'd have to have. Pickleball expansion is capable there, basketball. And then the play space, we've got that just north of the large open shelter, and a little bit of separation here, but then the splash pad is part of the reduced size swimming pool area in beach, and then potential for opening up more green space on the far west side and having an athletic multi-use athletic field there. So that's really the idea of kind of a preserve in place, preserve the footprint. To make those improvements, again, I want to reiterate that there is cost to grading and drainage improvements and all of that as well. But it could be something to look at as phasing is in consideration. You know, this is basically redevelopment in place. We don't have to consider those domino effects, you know, that we do here. If we do move forward with phase one, what other parts of the park does that impact? So this helps with that as well.
The phasing on number one and number two, I think I saw the majority of hands going for number two, so I appreciate everybody's input. The reality of the situation is, if we don't raise X number of millions of dollars, we're not going to get either or. So this may be a better option from a cost standpoint, I think. But
I mean,
it could be. There is redevelopment cost here too. That's what I want to emphasize and not overlook, is that to get those to drain properly, to get them a proper under drainage system to really improve those facilities, there's going to be similar costs. Some of the costs that you wouldn't have is really the massive reshaping. We're so flat here, I'm not too concerned about that. But I think it's something to keep in our back pocket as an opportunity or an option. If funding and those discussions turn to a field at a time, 3 years, 5 years, this might be the footprint to go back to as an opportunity as well.
Okay, I've got a question. Why didn't you give us this plan to begin with when you started with the first two? Because we've already got this. We can improve on this. And you know what you're saying about regrading and stuff, do we need some improvements? Yeah, it's going to be nowhere near the cost of taking all 4 of them and putting them into that circle jerk you had there. So to me, this makes sense. You're gaining extra parking on the north end for the Historical Society for all their buildings, which now they park on the road. This is going to bring the parking off of the main street. That makes sense. You're going to get a couple extra pickleball courts. You can upgrade your pond, your beach, and the swimming area, and that multi-purpose field. I don't know how much that would get used, but possibly it would be. I don't know. I live across the street from the park. I see what goes on there every day, and I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel here. And I wish you would have shown us all 3 of these, so we could have discussed all 3 and not just the 2 that you want to do.
Yeah, that's not just me. So we looked at about, like John said, 15 options. We considered a lot of options. This is what we wanted to bring forward tonight, is these 2 concepts from a subcommittee level to present to you. We also wanted to bring this to discuss, to look at development options. So our meeting's not done. This is up here. So we can talk about it. That's not shutting the door on this option. However, you know, as we look at park improvements, there's a lot of things I mentioned that don't work here. I don't think work here. From a safety standpoint, safety improvements, having parking right in the middle of your park and folks walking through parking lots, we try to eliminate that. Having facilities function better and have common uses, that was one of the goals and objectives. So that's where the two concepts, the two preferred concepts really came to the forefront. We do have this option, we drew it, we've got it in front of you here tonight, but there are considerations that I would like to look at more than, I don't think there's a huge cost savings here, I really don't. And I do feel that there's a missed opportunity to improve things here, like we did with JC Park, like we did with Swan Park in those examples. There is a huge opportunity to make this a safer, more welcoming space that will get used more. This layout is not ideal. Really, it's not ideal for functional space for any tournaments or any other opportunities to bring people in. So that's kind of why this one fell to the back, just to answer your question as to why it wasn't one of the two that the committee decided to bring forward here and have me present tonight.
So what did the WIDC say about that concept? Because they're the ones, I believe, that paid for the diamonds, the 2 extra diamonds. I don't even know what numbers they are, 8, 9, or whatever they are. Those 2 diamonds, I think the Diamond Club put those in and paid for them. You know, what input have they had? Did they want to go to that other system, or what was their preference?
Yeah, you've had their input.
Yeah, when we talked to the WIDC, they preferred having the pinwheel approach. They didn't want to give up the large baseball diamond, but they wanted for sure the 4 smaller diamonds, like 2 for girls softball and 2 for the Little League type age. And they were also interested in potentially having a field that was skinned and more flexible, where you could play the bigger kids hardball. And that was our intention with number 10 on that design there. So they felt like these fields have been in place, at least Diamond 1 and Diamond 2 have been in place for over 50 years, and they definitely wanted, because we said this would probably be the least costly option, but they felt like the drainage issues and the convenience that they'd be able to operate a lot more smoothly with this pinwheel approach and getting better drainage for their fields. But unfortunately, our representative didn't come tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a comment?
I just have one other question. I know there's 2 volleyball courts there now. Is that, I don't know if we need to, but is there any anticipation to keep one of them there?
We do have the one that's down by the south shelter that's over here.
Oh, okay.
And I was by it 2 weeks in a row because I walked the path a lot. I didn't see one footprint in it in 2 weeks. So other than the Sovereign State tournament, I don't even know if it gets used at that point. I was just curious. Appreciate it.
It all comes down to the bottom dollar. To stick money in this park and leave that parking lot in the middle where all of our kids and all that traffic would be ridiculous.
Any other thoughts? Now, you know, it's good exercise to look at that. This is kind of leaving things as they are, doing improvements, a lot of cost. I think missed opportunity for making it a safer place. Any other thoughts on this redevelopment place? Any comments?
One comment I would have is from that current design tournament got canceled, I know, for softball this year. Officiating partner, she was telling me canceled, everything was underwater, so.
Yeah, it needs improvement, and that's the whole thing is, with this, it is going to cost money to make it better. And whether they're in the same spot or not, it's going to be a very similar cost to moving things.
When are you looking forward, or looking to have it all determined? You know, when is the public gonna, does it become a point where the public won't have as much input anymore? And right now, is there a certain date set that that's gonna happen, and so on?
Today's your deadline.
That's what I thought. So,
Today's your deadline.
so 1, 2, and 3 will decide at some point after this meeting without any further input from the community.
So, no, what the process is gonna be next is we're gonna try to assemble all the data that we heard today and look at it in conjunction with the data that we had from the survey. And the subcommittee and the park committee are gonna come together and kind of review that in conjunction with Rutler. And we're gonna make a decision and try to have them come up with some estimated costs, as well as some estimated ways in which we could phase this project out. For example, right now, the WYDC already has enough money to put in new batting cages. Okay, so depending on which of these concepts we select, they want to put the batting cages in this fall. Well, one of them right now, the design says it's in the middle of the beach. So we have to determine pretty darn quick if we're gonna keep the beach, we're gonna shrink the beach, or we're gonna eliminate the beach. And so that's why it's kind of critical. It's hard to say what it's gonna cost until we know what concept we're gonna go with. And then once that's determined, that's where we're gonna talk about the phasing and the cost. And then at the September village board meeting is when we, as a park committee, intend to bring forward our recommendation.
Would there be a possibility that you had that one survey done, and that was before there was really a lot of boiling down to the nitty-gritty, if you will, and now that we now know we have only 3 choices. I'm wondering if it might be a good idea, if time allows, that you could redo that survey and say, what do you want? You know, give people a chance to voice now.
So let me ask, seeing concept 3 here, does that change anybody's preference? Does anybody have a preference for that over 2?
I have to talk to my wife.
Would you prefer, does anyone prefer that over 2? I mean, okay.
I mean, in any business presentation, Dave, you always have to say, okay, let's just keep it as it is with some improvements, or redo the whole thing. That's why I wanted to show it. And I apologize for not bringing that up earlier, but we clearly did think about it, because you have to. I mean, the other thing I would say, on behalf of option 3, is the fact that many of you know that this used to be a landfill, right, on the south end of the park. So there could be some soil remediation activity that would be required if we redo Diamond 1, for sure. So it could be more expensive to do option 1 or 2, or concept 1 or 2, but I still think the right thing for us to do is to focus on safety, get some new playground equipment, and then start working it from there.
Speaking about the used to be a dump, Adams Street, I believe, used to be the entrance to the dump, and the plat map still shows Adams Street, which is north of Cleveland. There you go. That there's still a street there. Is the village going to officially vacate that street under all 3 plans?
It is from GIS data that we were looking at. There's the, let me get to that slide. This is the current property here, where Cleveland has that right of way into the park, and there's no right of way shown here at the northern.
Well, the reason I ask is the village
said that they didn't want to vacate that at one point, and they're definitely not going to be using it, especially if they're going to put a parking lot there, and I don't see any reasonable means for not vacating it, so.
Yeah.
I
And
was
that's all the
wondering-
recommendations we'd bring forward to the village as we work through
Okay.
permitting discussions and property discussions and all that. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for this evening?
Did you go with, this is number 2, right?
Yes.
Right. So if we don't have a pool, is there a cost for the splash pad to use it? Okay, so I heard you say earlier that Rachel didn't want the splash pad outside the pool for fear of lost revenue. I mean, I look at this as something we want a community to be welcomed into, and this young lady mentioned, if now you have to, there's a fee to use a splash pad because you get into a fenced area, that's one of the reasons I voted for the plan over here.
I would just say, this is still early in the design, right? So that was Rachel's gut feel for it. The community may want that. I guess my question would be, if you have one small child that wants a splash pad and another child that would want the pool, what would you do? You have electric pool, right? Yeah. Yeah, but not for kids that are like 5 and 6 years old. There's like an age limit, I think, that you have to be minimum of a certain age. I think it's 12 or something to be there on your own.
Security is an issue with that too. Not that we have a lot of crime around here, but if there's a fence there, kids are a little more safer, right?
Yeah, the one thing we talked about,
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
the one thing we talked about with the splash pad inside of the fence was in communities like Neenah, for example, at Washington Park, they've got a splash pad, and there's a lot of kids on bikes, riding, things like that. So we'd be able to control that a little easier. But to me, either way is not a deal breaker, and I don't think we have to get into the nitty gritty right now. It's appreciating what your comments were. And I agree with both of you. You're kind of laying out the doormat, inviting people to come into your community. We want to make it as hospitable as possible, but we also have to be able to pay for it. So those are the two.
And I mean, we might be able to come up with wristband,
Yeah,
system or something that if you got a wristband, you can go in the splash pad and it's free or whatever.
We learned a lot at Plowman Park, watching how they operated. It was much different than we did. They had some good ideas, and we shamelessly stole them all, and
All right.
continue to do that, try to make the park better. Thanks.
Yeah, what John just said was what I was gonna say. Just because you go in the fence doesn't mean you have to pay to go in the fence. You can go in the fence, and then if you wanna use the pool and you wanna use the inflatables, then you pay. Splash pad's free. You're still inside the fence. But you don't have to pay to go in the fence. You're not paying to walk in the fence. You walk in the fence, and then you say, I'm going to the pool.
Definitely a possibility. Yep. Yep, absolutely. We've got some great input tonight. Thank you. I think we've got some good direction too. Not to say any of this is, again, set in stone. We're going to be working with the subcommittee and the board in the village to refine this, to show you some costs, start strategizing phasing plans and how this can become a reality. So thank you all again for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. It helps tremendously guide this planning process to get the village the best planning tools to move this forward. So I really appreciate you coming out. And it makes me feel good too that you wanted to participate. This is fun for me. So I really do appreciate that. Keep your eyes open for communications as you have been. John, anything else to add before we conclude this evening?
Sure. So one other thing, we're going to have a kickoff on October 6th. here in the community center for the Winter County Area Community Foundation's 10-year anniversary. So we're going to have Copper Box playing, which is a pretty good band, and they play a great variety. So I think it appeals to all ages. We're going to have some games for children, and I think a little snack lunch of some type. So, and we're also going to try to use that as a kickoff for fundraising for this program.
Free. Pretty free. It's free.
And it's free. It's free. Like the splash pad. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, I'd like to echo John's comments. Appreciate everyone being here. Peggy, we thank you for opening the doors and letting us use this beautiful facility. I think this is our second time. We may need to use it another time, and another time, and another time. It's a great facility, and we appreciate it. So, thank you all.
Thank you.
I'd like to remind everybody that those next meetings at the park and the village board, those are open to the public. So if you're interested